What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Screen Speak, podcast that's all about movies, life, and so much more. As you've come to expect on this show, this is me, Jordan Anderson. This is my podcast, and as always, I thank you each and every time for coming by and giving this show a listen. First, I gotta get some stuff out of the way. Namely, where the hell have you been? What's going on? Why are you just now dropping an episode? It's been like 2 weeks, dude. Like, what are you doing? Well, let me tell you what I've been doing. Okay, I have some excuses. I think they're valid. All right. I mean, maybe not to you, but you gotta live with your actions and your choices and things like that. And I had things come up that I had to deal with, so that is why I was away. But let me elaborate. Truth is, there's a couple of things. One, it's the holiday season. Like that one song, it's the holiday season, a-roop-a-dee-doo, and dip-a-dee-da, and Santa's gonna squeeze his fat ass down the thing or something, the chimney, right? Sorry to disrespect Santa and his wide girth. Girth? Is that... Why am I trying to be polite? Santa's fat, okay? Yep, there, I said it. I don't really know. I'm not editing that out. Nope, I'm not. I'm leaving it in. I said what I said. Sorry if you are offended. Typically these intros are a little bit more prepared than this one, but I've been sitting on this episode for a little while, and it's just because I've been working on a lot of stuff for the podcast for 2024. Working on a new segment actually for the podcast. I can't really tell you about it just yet, but I think in the next week, maybe next week or less, I want to say, I will actually release the first part of it. So, what's that mean? It's in parts? Could be. You'll just have to go ahead and listen in when it does drop to see, but that is something else I've been working on, and I'm very excited about it, so I'm putting in a little tease on that right now. But anyways, going back to where I've been. So holidays, just been busy. My day job has been keeping me steadily busy, and just seeing people, family, friends, doing like after work functions here and there, things like that. It's been keeping me busy, and again, just all the stuff for getting ready for the podcast for next year, because I have a big year planned for Screen Speak, and I hope that everybody is gonna stay around for the ride that will turn out to be. I probably could have gotten an episode up, maybe one or two prior to now, but I also had some anxiety going on, honestly, in the last couple of weeks. That was something that I don't, it's not something I like to talk about a lot on the podcast, but it is something that I do deal with from time to time is heightened states of anxiety, right? I mean, holidays do tend to bring that up. But truth is, there's just been, a few things kind of going on in life that was causing me to have some stress. And I was, just handling it as one does, and I didn't really want to project that out to the podcast. So I chose to just kind of step back for just a little bit to kind of, collect myself, get my things together, get my affairs in order before I brought back new content to you. But rest assured, I am back, and I promise it's not my goal ever to step away for a really indefinite amount of time. The longest I ever actually really try to do it at this point is about 2 weeks. But ideally speaking, I really try to get episodes out at least once a week, and I'll really try to keep with that for the future going forward. So please stick with me on that. Really do appreciate it. And also, I have over 100 episodes in the can. So if you really want to go and check out old stuff, go ahead and do that too, unless you are an absolute diehard fan and you've been listening to this podcast since day one. If that's the case, I mean, that is awesome, and actually you should let me know if that's the case, and here's how you can do that. Subtle plug right there. Or subtle shift into the plugs right there, I should say. So if you are not already a follower of the podcast, go ahead and hit that follow button on whatever it is that you are listening to this on, whether it do be the Spotifys of the world, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, etc., etc. You're listening to a podcast, so just hit the follow button so that you do get notified when new episodes drop. Sometimes that means you got to hit a bell. Other times it just means you'll find my face when you're scrolling through your podcast feed. So go ahead and do that. You can always check me out on Instagram or just give me a message on my email. All that information is in the description of this and every episode of Screen Speak, so please go ahead and do that, so that way you can stay in the know on everything I got going on with this thing and help show support in any which way you can. I'm not asking for donations or anything like that. Not to say that I won't maybe entertain that idea in 2024, doing some sort of like a Patreon thing, or, shaking my digital tin cup to people to, get some buckaroos to help keep the thing going. But for now, I don't ask that. I don't ask that right now. All I really ask for support is that you listen to the episodes, you tell your family, tell your friends about it, tell your movie friends about it in particular, and or just anybody that you know in the industry, because I really try to keep this show an open experience for just about anybody out there that has any sort of passion or love for the world of movies, art, and entertainment. So there you go. Let me tell you all a little bit about who I have on this episode. It is a new guest. New to you, but technically a person that I talked with back in September, and I'm just now getting around to releasing their episode, which I don't really feel that great about holding on to something that long, but it's a conversation that I had at the Iowa Independent Film Festival. It was actually the first conversation that was recorded at the official after party of the Iowa Independent Film Festival, the 16th annual one. And that was the one I went to back in September. That was in Mason City and Clear Lake, Iowa. And I met a lot of great people there, recorded a ton of different conversations, but truth is, it just takes me time to get through them all and still produce new content and, hold a day job and be married and have a family and everything else that a 32-year-old man has in his life. That's just kind of the way it was. And again, I really try not to half-ass content when I put it out there. I really want to give it my all when I am deciding to release something. So I really want to make sure I put care and attention into it. And this episode with Andrew here is an example of that. So, Andrew, who is this? Who is this guest that I have on? So on this episode of Screen Speak, I'm speaking with a animator, actually. The first time, I should say, by the way, that I've ever spoken with a person that's done animation or created an animated short. But this gentleman's name is Andrew Paulson. So let me tell you a little bit about him, and then I'll explain a little bit about his short, and then we'll just go ahead and get into it. So a bit about Andrew himself. He is from the Des Moines, Iowa area, and he's a pretty young guy. He's a recent graduate of the Des Moines Area Community College. I believe he has some sort of a degree in animation. I want to say I don't have his plaque in front of me that has his stuff, but that's what I've been told. He's been in the animation for pretty much most of his life. I think he watched a lot of shows as a kid, animated shows. Eventually, he began exploring drawing on his own, and that eventually led him to getting into animation, studying the assets of it, the technology of it, and getting into his own art and character design, which eventually led him to go to school at the Des Moines Area Community College, where he is now a college graduate on that. So, hey, congratulations, Andrew, for graduating college. Welcome to the real world. I promise it doesn't suck. It is actually a good thing. You just have to, you only get what you give, right? At least that's how I kind of look at it with a lot of aspects of life. Just like that one song. Remember, it's from like the New Radicals. I think that's it. It's like a one-hit wonder from the 90s. Someone out there will know what I'm talking about. Okay. So again, what have I said about Andrew? He loves animation. He is an animator. He's a college graduate, and he likes to draw quite a bit. Aside from drawing, as I said, he does do his own cartoon character designs. He does some writing. And from the research I have done on him just after the episode, it appears he also has a hobby with vintage cars. I know nothing about cars, so I probably could not hold a conversation to save my life with him about cars. But hey, if you like vintage cars, maybe explore Andrew, look at all his information that I have in the description of this episode, and check out what he's got going on his Instagram. He's got a YouTube. You can check out his website. He gave me his email, so if you perhaps want to maybe collaborate with him on something, hint, hint, he might actually like that sort of thing. And yeah, that's what I'll just say about him as far as a person goes. At least like his bio and whatnot. As far as a person goes, well, I've never talked with an animator before. Not before I talked with Andrew, at least. So I really didn't have any sort of frame of reference for, what do I talk with a person that does animation about? I really wasn't sure how to approach it. So I guess I just tried to rely on what I would call my natural people skills without sounding too big of a douche. But yeah, that's what I tried to do. We talked about a lot of different things in our conversation. We talked about ego. interestingly enough. He's actually pretty open with the fact that he has one. Whether or not it's a healthy one, I mean, that's not really for me to say. I always have a hard time wrestling with ego myself. Not having one per se, but keeping it in check, because I think everybody from time to time should have an ego about something every now and again, but you don't want to become arrogant with it. But there's a fine line with it. You want to have some confidence too, but you also don't want to get a big head and everything like that. So it's kind of tricky, but we start the conversation off actually by talking about that. Talk about some software that's used to animate shorts. Talk about, of course, the short itself. Talk about music, favorite films, our thoughts on cover music, and a lot of other things. And at this point, I should probably tell you about his short. So his short is called Not Just Deliveries. His short, Not Just Deliveries, is available on YouTube. I have the link for it down in the description below. It's about 5-6 minutes, I want to say. And what I would tell you for a short is, considering I don't know really much about the world of animation and how long it takes to do something. But I know from talking with him actually before we hit record and just doing research, he worked on the thing for months. I want to say it was like 4 or 5 months prior to him even showing it to people. And you would think just for a handful of minutes, like how long could that possibly take to do? But I know animation is no joke, and there is a lot of technical design knowledge that has to go into it. He worked a lot on getting like the voices and the tone of the whole thing. So it really is a unique art form in the whole world of film, art, and entertainment. And I enjoyed talking with him about it. His short itself has a lot of like cynical humor, I guess. Somewhat about like just kind of pop culture references that are just thrown in everybody's face out there. All the people in the short are animals, so I think that's interesting. Kind of almost gave me like I was about to say like a Zootopia vibe, but I just mean like it's like animals doing adult things. In this case, I believe it's like a man cat thing. I sound like a complete jackass, but it is a animated animal that is doing essentially like an Uber delivery, and he is just having problems with it and having all kinds of things that are annoying the shit out of him throughout. So it's probably not the greatest description for his short, but that's what I have for you on that. And I can tell you that I enjoyed talking with him, and that I think it was his first podcast. It might have been his first podcast. I'm not 100% sure. Maybe he says it in the playback. I don't know. You'll just have to pay attention to the episode in case he actually says so. I think that's pretty much all I got for an introduction for everybody on this. All I'll say now is that, as always, I appreciate every single one of you for coming by the podcast again, giving it a listen, showing some support for it. Feel free to drop a rating for the show as well, because if you do like it, I do actually pay attention to those sorts of things. So please do that, because it helps get more eyes and ears on this podcast and helps it grow. That would mean the world to me. And I think that's it. I'm sure I'm going to have content coming before Christmas, so just, keep an eye out for that as well. I don't know if I'll be releasing like a best and worst of the year list type of thing. I want to say I did something like that last year, but honestly, things have been really busy lately, so I haven't even had time to think that far in the past, let alone right now towards the future. But I promise you I will get there, because like I said, my sights right now are on 2024 bound. That's where we're going to be at soon. So I want to be prepped, so that way it's going to be the best year yet for the podcast. So yeah, that's it. We'll definitely talk before Christmas, but for now, go ahead and sit back, relax, enjoy whatever it is that you're doing right now, and enjoy this conversation I have with the young up-and-coming animator, Mr. Andrew Paulson. Iowa Independent Film Festival after party. You're the first recording at this thing.
Thank you.
How does that feel?
Intense, honestly. I didn't even think I'd get nominee, but I did got nominee for our first.
Did they notify you before that you were going to get nominated, or did you just find out tonight?
No, I just found out.
That's awesome, man. What did that feel like?
I mean, a part of me, just because I've been doing animation for like a decade now, I kind of expected to win the award just based off my ego, but like...
You got an ego?
Yeah, a little bit.
At least you're aware.
A lot of the people who worked with me know that I had an ego, especially during my teen years of animating. But
what was the ego like, if you don't mind me asking? I mean, like, how did that kind of shape in your animations?
I thought I was like the hottest thing on the website. I posted my animations to. I thought like nobody's ever done this before, and to an extent, a little bit of that is true. But at the same time, though, considering since a lot of animation now is just moved to the internet in general, now you have like a bunch of like web shows that are up to TV standards that I can't really meet by myself. I can get pretty damn close. So
yeah.
But yeah, seeing nominee, I think I'll take that. I mean, as a first time going to a film festival, I'll accept that.
It's an honor to get recognized in any shape or form, I think, in this industry. And, also I think tonight's sort of a testament to that, this may not be Hollywood per se, but Mason City, Clear Lake, there's some really big-hearted people that are out here. There's people that really care about the community here, and I think really respectful of the arts and allowing different people a platform I really think gain confidence under their belt is sort of how I look at this festival in a lot of ways, because there's a lot of people here, not that there's not seasoned people, but there's a lot of first-time filmmakers in some respects too, and I know how big confidence kind of plays into your drive to continue. But I got to ask you about animation and whatnot, because I'll be honest, they're the first person I've had on the podcast that has done animation. So
impressive.
So I have questions. Okay. So first off, if you don't mind getting just a little technical, not too into the weeds, but like, what are the programs that you use to achieve the vision that you put together?
Regarding this specific animation?
Yeah, this specific one, or you could generalize it a little bit, but I mean, this specific one's good.
This specific one, I'll go with this one, since it was kind of a new, me dipping my toes into something, completely different. I used Adobe Animate to animate the actual animation, but it was, the only sound that I added was the voice lines, and I think some sound effects. I think some of the backgrounds, too, I used Adobe Illustrator just to make sure that the colors in them it's called RGB safe, where you can show the film on different mediums like your laptop, your phone. It'll be somewhat still consistent.
Did you go to school for this, or?
Yeah, I just graduated actually.
Hey, congratulations, man! That's awesome. Yeah. What does it feel like to be in the real world?
It's
if you
so
call
harsh.
this the real world. Yeah.
A lot of things I noticed that there's a lot of other struggling artists, so to speak, trying to get their voice out there and hopefully get something.
I hope in my own small way that my podcast can help with that.
I never thought I would get this far on, so I just thought I was kind of a one-hit wonder in my teenage years during my old web show. And
how old are you?
I'm 22. I'll be 23.
And you're young, man. You're young. You're not a one-hit wonder. Not even close. So I gotta ask, aside from the programs and whatnot, what's the title of this animation? Why don't you tell people that, kind of what it's about? And also, can people watch it, or do they have to see it at a festival?
Yeah. So the title of the animation is not just Deliveries. It's my first full Adobe animation. It's about an anthropomorphic bat who works at a retail job and absolutely hates it. Because
why would someone hate working a retail job?
Well, I work at a retail job currently.
Might have some opinions on that one.
I think like 23 states in America, top employer is Walmart. So, I mean, that in and of itself is probably, a little depressing. There's like so many jobs out there, but a lot of people go to the retail service, which isn't known for best quality of, work environment or best pay.
Right.
Yeah.
So, you got the animated creatures. He works, the bat.
Yeah.
You said the bat, or the anthropomorphic?
Anthropomorphic bat.
Yeah, see, I'm not even saying that right. The bat. So,
a humanoid bat, basically.
Humanoid bat, works in retail, hates it. Where does it go from there?
A lot of the plot derives from him being put into situations that he can't control that drive him insane, like a retail job would.
Right.
This one, of course, would be a delivery driver, and I will not lie, this honestly was a bit of inspired in quotations from a SpongeBob episode that I grew up with.
Well, which one in particular?
Pizza Delivery, if I'm remembering the title correctly.
Now, I know SpongeBob. I'm not going to act like I'm a hardcore fan, so I don't know that specific episode, but how did that one inspire this?
So basically, they're trying to deliver a pizza, and that Mr. Krabs just makes up out of his ass or whatever, and then...
I love Mr. Krabs, by the way. Just money!
Exactly. I need to send Squidward to SpongeBob too, just because. I mean, what are you doing, Squidward? It's dead inside, so sends them with SpongeBob, and they go through like a bunch of like trivial. It's more comedic on their side. Mine's a bit more in tune with the world, but like he's trying to get hitchhiker SpongeBob, and he's doing like this weird dance that just drives Squidward insane.
Yeah.
And then there's like a tornado, and then he said that they're lost, they don't know where the city is, and then Squidward says, well, the city is this way because I don't trust you, even though SpongeBob was correct, so they get further lost.
Yeah.
And then towards the end, SpongeBob finally delivers his pizza, and then this guy just like slams it in front of his face because he didn't have his diet drink.
I see. Now, I gotta ask, why the animals? You know, like, why are they animals? Like, was that intentional? You just like animals? Like, what's going on?
Well, it's a combination of different things. A lot of the time, I feel like my art, the character design is inspired by Rodney Greenblatt, who made the Parappa the Rapper games, which had similar character designs. I grew up with a bunch of animals. I think I had 2 turtles, I had 4 cats total, I had a dog, had some fish.
Jeez. Are any of these still around? Or?
No.
Wow. Okay.
No, unfortunately not. If I could afford to have pets again, I definitely would.
What's the dream pet? You know? Like you got like a favorite kind of dog breed or something like that?
No, I'm more of a cat person.
Hey, respect. Cats are awesome.
Yeah, actually my first animated series was based off of a cat. Actually.
Okay. Now, who have you shown this film to? I mean, like outside of the festival here. I mean, who's seen this?
Well, I released it in June, so it's been out for a few months now.
Where could people find it?
It's on YouTube. Just search up Not Just Deliveries.
You got like a channel, or is this just like a one and done thing? Like...
Yeah, it's a channel. It was my personal channel, but I debated whether or not I wanted to put its own channel, but I put it in my one just because it has both that series and snippets of my old series on it. So
one thing I particularly wanted to touch on in your short that I appreciated, at least as somebody that has opinions on radio and media and stuff like that, you have a moment in there where you're kind of showing like a little traffic jam sort of thing, and there's a person that basically is flipping around on the radio, and there's some fun commentary of like, welcome back to like generic pop song number, you know, whatever. Why did you put that in there?
So I love music. Actually, before I did animation, I actually wanted to be more of a musician. My mom bought me a piano when I was young, and I could learn like the basic songs. I couldn't learn to play like Coldplay's Clocks, which was a huge song. I
love Coldplay, by the way. Is that one of your favorite songs from them?
I like the older Coldplay in general. I'm not a huge fan of their newer stuff. That's actually kind of part of where that joke came from. Like a lot of pop music now just has this overproduced, super clean production onto it, and it's like uninspired lyrics. This might be a sin to a lot of people, but I actually agree with Roger Waters on this sense that there's a band called Genesis that he said that they were shallow, and that after I think the album Duke, they just laid the current road to current pop music where it's just overproduced synthesizers, effects.
Yeah, music is something, I listen to a fair amount of it myself. Actually, with movies, I'm one of the people that will listen to a lot of composed music, a lot of the scores in films, which I feel, unfortunately, outside of the film community is underappreciated to like the general audience member. Like they'll listen to it and they'll say like, "Oh, it's like the background music or something," and that just makes me cringe because I'm like, no, it's not. It creates the mood, it sets the tone, it does a lot for a story.
I deliberately chose the background music. One's a cover that I made to kind of hint back to my music roots.
Do you still play stuff, or?
No, not as much.
Yeah.
I know like some riffs, like I know like the Depeche Mode's. What was their biggest hit? Like dun, 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 dun. Can't Get Enough.
Yeah.
That one. I know how to play that one. And then I think I learned how to play. Oh God, John Lennon's Imagine.
Yeah, it's classic.
Those are the only two I actually remember how to play, but two of them are, very influential songs.
So your animation, man, I'm curious because you must still have an interest, I'm assuming, at furthering your growth in it, or where you're kind of wanting to take it. What's next for you?
That I haven't decided. Considering that I got nominee, I'm kind of thinking, well, now I want to push it to something award-winning.
Yeah.
But right now, I don't think I could really do that by myself. I'd probably have to get my old, friends back because.
How many? Yeah, I was gonna ask, how much of this did you have help with?
So I had one friend who is making his own series that I'm helping out with.
Mm-hmm.
He mostly kind of co-wrote it. He went over the script and suggested some changes. Get rid of some filler, maybe add this in, maybe remove this, make it more punchier.
Sure.
But before even that, like when I used to write things, I used to actually write it with my friends, and then we'd all collaborate to make something, unique that had both of our strengths and his strengths, and kind of filled in each other's weaknesses.
Yeah.
One of them, you probably wouldn't have heard of this, but more my community would know what this is. It was called The Court and even The Void.
Okay.
Both had a similar character arc where a friend, betrays another friend, and he has to go on a journey to redeem himself and to, undo his mistakes.
Just curious, it's the cliche question that gets asked to anybody that's in the movie world and whatnot, but what are your favorite movies?
It depends really on the month. I don't tie myself to one. I don't think that's very productive.
I never say favorite movie
Yeah.
because that's impossible.
Currently this month I saw the Simpsons movie a few times.
I love that one.
Yeah. I saw the first SpongeBob movie.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I saw, what was it? It was the Soul. It was the one that Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross scored.
Okay, is that you said Soul, right?
Yeah,
that's the Pixar one. I think Jamie Foxx, jazz movie, right? I have not seen that one. Is it good?
Oh, it's very good. Yeah.
No.
Definitely on par with some of their older works, if you ask me. Just a lot of the characters.
And you said that Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross scored that?
Yeah.
A Pixar movie.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, and the music used in my film was also by Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross.
Was it?
Yeah, it was Nine Inch Nails' Ghost album, which
Okay.
he released as Creative Commons back in the day. He said, I want people to take this album and do something with it.
You ever seen them live, in concert? Or
I wish. No, unfortunately.
But it seems like you would if you could.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
Who have you seen in concert?
I wanted to see AWOL Nation, but I couldn't get
That'd be good.
I think they were playing in Cedar Rapids. They were playing in Clyde, which is a suburb of Des Moines.
Uh-huh.
I wanted to go see the one in Peoria just because I haven't been to Peoria yet.
Who have you seen?
There was Brit Floyd, which is a Pink Floyd tribute band. That was back in 2016. There was a Led Zeppelin one, I think, in 2017 we went to.
Sure.
There was another Pink Floyd one we also saw, a tribute band at the State Fair in Iowa.
Iowa has a lot of tribute bands.
Yeah.
I'll be honest, this might seem like a hot take on the subject. I don't know if it is or not, but I feel like I get some pushback when I bring this up. I am not the biggest person in the world that likes a lot of cover music. I don't.
Understandable.
It's not for lack of respect for the musicians that do it. I mean, they clearly can play the instruments. There's clearly talent there. I don't dispute that. I can't do it. I can't play it. I cannot perform like that. So I understand there's a separation there, at least with myself. But I don't know. I'm just if you're really going to be a true musician and kind of make your mark in the world, I think you got to produce something original. It's not that I mind somebody that's produced stuff to then do some covers. If you've established yourself in your own voice, that's fine. But if that's what you're going to kind of solely make your bread and butter off of, it's just not for me. And I wish sometimes Iowa, as far as the state goes, would kind of get more diversity when it comes to the different concerts and performers they would get here. Because I feel like there's a ton of either cover music or it's stuff for Journey and 38 Special and stuff like that.
I have a rule on tribute bands. You got to put your own spin into it.
Yes.
You can't just copy the music.
No, if you're going to do that, I'll just listen to the radio.
Yeah.
I don't need to do it.
But it needs to be meaningful. It can't just be the same, progression, same mix. Some of my favorite live musicians, Simon Garfunkel.
Yeah.
When they played live, they would always mix up their songs just how they sang it, and made it actual, useful or not useful, unique.
Yeah.
So if a tribute band could do that, I would actually have a reason to listen to them. It's more than just a remix, it's actually a reinterpretation of the song.
That's the key. If there's a way to maybe get that term out there, reinterpretations, instead of cover groups, I feel like that's actually a more respectful way to the people that are recording it as well.
Exactly.
Doing it. I haven't thought about that before. That's a good one. I'm literally gonna like write that down and just like start saying that in conversation. And then people are like, "What are you talking about?" Be like, "Oh no, I say that instead of cover." That's the new way of saying it.
Yeah.
Okay, so do you think you would go to more festivals after this one?
Yeah,
if you had the opportunity to.
Yeah, I already submitted a few more. I think last month. I think one of them's in Atlanta, Georgia. Mm-hmm. There's one in California, and then there's one in Canada. I don't know if they've been selected or not.
Yeah.
But I submitted those. I might submit. I don't know what Des Moines has, because that's where I live. Mm-hmm. I know they had a 48-hour film festival, and actually the 10 Commandments of the one that we saw, 10 Commandments of Catering or whatever, actually was made for that film festival in Des Moines. Okay. I learned that, yeah.
Let me ask you a question, man. I don't ask it on every episode of my podcast, but it does kind of tie back to the core of my show. How do movies speak to you?
Frankly, it depends on the movie I'm watching. Like, I won't watch, a Percival Wallflower the same way I'd watch something like, I don't know, The Incredibles. Like, they're two completely different, moods for me to watch them. Like, when I go to, like, Perks of Being a Wallflower, I'm more like in an emotional, vulnerable position. I'm feeling that moment in my life versus... Does
that relate to you, like, pretty relatable as far as, like, your high school days and stuff like that?
Yeah, exactly.
I can tell you on that one, man, you might not believe it, like, sitting across talking with me and stuff, but I, in high school, was very... I'm not going to say exactly like that, because, I mean, he's able to, be with Emma Watson and still, still have some good luck there.
He had better love life than I did in high school.
But I understand the wallflower element. I had very little self-confidence in high school. I mean, it's a hard time for a lot of people because you're figuring out who you are, and sometimes you're not even lucky enough to have really a good group around you.
And you have, like, bad people telling you who you are, then you're like... You internalize it when you're an adult, you don't even realize it till it's probably too late.
No, so that movie is certainly one that, like, I watch it, and it's like, it's a really good movie, but it definitely hits home. I think for anybody that's like an introvert like that or has experienced it. Yeah, I can't watch it
every day. Like,
no.
It's not just because, like, I don't like crying. It's just because, like, I mean, I feel those feelings. Sometimes I just wake up and, like, nothing's happened. So, it's one of those things.
Yeah. You know what? I'll tell you this, man, and I promise I'm not trying to get, like, a reaction out of you or anything like that. Good. But it's big of you to just be able to be here right now and putting yourself out here like this.
Yeah.
It is. Because I think sometimes people either maybe don't consider it or they're not thinking about it, but a lot of the artists that come out to these different things, I mean, not everybody's a mega extrovert and doing all that. And it takes a lot to put your work out there that's very personal to you for an audience to see.
Exactly.
And that's not easy, man, but I mean, I promise you, I mean, you're doing great here. It's only going to be uphill from here for you. I mean, like,
hopefully.
Uphill in a good way.
It'll be a roller coaster. Like, I'm still working at retail, so,
Look, I'll tell you something. I don't think I've actually admitted this on the podcast before, but I'll tell you right now, okay? So I went to school for graphic design, okay? And I had a very different vision of myself when I graduated. I thought for sure that I'm going to, like, work in, like, advertisement, like, I'm going to make a lot of money, I'm going to, be a great artist and make some really expensive commercial stuff, and that's going to be what I'm going to do, right? Now, I get my first real job at, I won't say the company, but it was, for lack of a better word, a direct mail manufacturer, okay? And I didn't make it there. It's the only job I've ever gotten fired from.
Really?
Yeah, never happened before in my life. I would like to think I'm for the employers I've worked for, I'm a good person, work hard, I'm skilled, I have a good heart, everything like that, but it did not work there, okay? Yeah. And what kind of happened from that is I kind of had to force myself to take a hard look in the mirror and kind of figure out what it is I'm kind of trying to want. And there was a moment that I ended up, I'm trying to think, this was in like mid 2016 into like early 2017. I worked at Target. And dude, that's after getting a bachelor's in graphic design and thinking that I'm going to do this. And then here I am working at a job that, frankly, at the time in my head, I had a lot of shame with it because I needed money to kind of pay the bills. But at the same time, I'm like, this is embarrassing to me because I knew I had more potential in me and stuff like that. But here's the good news, okay? Not saying this to be like a sob story, but when I was there was a lot of really good people I met. And there's a lot of people there that actually make a career out of working at a place like that. And retail, like any other place, is a necessary field, and people work really hard. They have to work long hours. They work evening shifts. They work overnights.
Essential workers, basically.
Yeah,
they're like healthcare, basically.
Essential workers, absolutely. And the pandemic taught us that certainly more than any other time. But all I'll say is this, is sometimes in life you got to put your pride aside and whatever sort of ego that you have and just know, you know what? You're working. You're paying the bills. You're making ends meet. There is pride to be taken in that. There are people that will not work, or they'll try to create jobs or just be bullshit, frankly, if they're like an entrepreneur and stuff like that. Not that they're all bad, but do not don't diminish yourself because you're like, I work retail. I work a counter job. Like, those are people too, man.
There's a lot of other artists who, worked. Either if it wasn't service industry, it was doing something that they didn't want to do.
Right.
And I don't think, there's anything wrong with at least taking some pride in it.
Yeah.
But
you don't want to do it forever. I get that.
Yeah, exactly. There's a point. I'm probably not there. I feel like I'm there, but I'm probably not there. Like I said, I'm only 22.
Yeah.
There is a point where you kind of want to draw the line. You gotta, take push yourself. Okay, I'm too comfortable in my current position. I have to take the next step up.
Yeah, and the thing is I wish I could tell you, man, that there's going to be, people that are going to push you in that direction. I don't think there is, to be honest. I mean, no. Like only you is going to know where you're kind of wanting to go on that, and it won't be easy. But I respect any artist that is willing to still do an honest day's work and make a living while they're pursuing their dream. It's just kind of like, again, it's finding that kind of fine line between how much am I committing to this thing that's paying my living versus how can I then take my passion, turn it into profit, and actually start doing more of what I love and have it be recognized professionally and get money for it.
Exactly.
But you'll get there if you believe in it, man. Yeah.
I mean, like I said, I've worked with others. I've gotten paid for, doing quote-unquote animation work before. I was an asset designer on a web series, and I got paid, I think, $10 per asset. I think I managed to cram out like 3 of them within the hour. And that was an easy $30. And since the style of the show was so, tight and like kind of like hand-drawn, kind of like what I had up there, it was pretty easy to get them sketched out.
So let me ask for animation here. And I'll start to wind this down because I realize I got to get something to eat. But I got to ask, so like any type of creative field, I mean, specifically in animation, I imagine there's, I'm not going to say a straightforward track of success of like how you kind of get to the level of getting paid to do it. But do you know animation-wise, like what it takes to kind of get to work for like a studio or get to work for a film? Like how do you get there?
For a studio like in Hollywood, you probably have to move to California, at the very least internship at one of those studios, and then kind of present your work. And then you work with them for, it can be anywhere to like 6 months to a year. And then hopefully, you develop your skill set enough where they think, okay, you're employable, you're on the team. And you're probably going to be stuck in California because a lot of that stuff isn't really remote. But a lot of people, I think, now are turning towards web animation. And all you have to do there was, if they had like a position open, you submit your demo reel, and there's a good chance that if they like what they see, they'll hire you on.
Yeah.
Another thing is like these film festivals, they have specific ones for cartoons and animation.
Okay.
And there are some people who work on those series that, will go there, and then they'll kind of like assess the market, like who can we, employ, who best fits our art style, etc., etc. Like, you might not know who these people are. There's this YouTube channel called Jack and Jellyfy. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right. That's made this thing called an object show. And like 10 years ago, it's just some random thing on the internet that they made as a hobby. And now it's an actual studio. Like, you could actually work there. Mm-hmm. And like, if they seen your work, or something like Hell of a Boss, if they seen your work, like people worked on the show, they will like put a name in for you. And then there's a good chance that you have like at least, you know, a trial period of doing your work. It's not what you know, but who you know. But
I will say it is one of the tried and true cliches, but you're absolutely right. Especially, I would say, from the exposure I have, at least in the filmmaking community and whatnot, it's a very relationship tight-knit community.
Yeah.
So it definitely helps to be at events like this, I think, you know, meet some people. I can definitely tell you for myself, getting to this festival, it happened from being at another festival. That's how it happened. I would not have been here if it wasn't for another festival I'd been to and met people that knew people at this festival and taken that next step. So everything is possible on that, but you do got to follow through on it too.
Yeah.
Because I think there's a lot of people I see that make that mistake. They'll be very either, you know, very charming, like, you know, they make a really good first impression and, you know, make somebody be like, wow, like I want to know more about them. And then they just drop the ball. They just don't even go on to the next step. So that's certainly a piece of advice I would give to anybody at something like this, is just make sure if you get somebody's contact info, you follow up.
Exactly. Yeah, nobody likes people who, because it doesn't make you really reliable. And there was even a tweet I think I saw about, like, there is a guy who worked on like a little niche project of his own. He's saying, like, you have to like not be shy when you're talking to these people. If you want any position or even a shot at it, you have to, you know, get out of your comfort zone and present, you know, yourself to these people. And I've been
is something like this out of your comfort zone?
A little bit, because I'm used to presenting to an online audience, so seeing it in person is different, but it's... I mean, at least I get to actually talk to people who are just as passionate as I am. You know, just not having a fan in your comment, just kind of, you know, just being a yes man. Not to say that I hate my fans or anything. It's just...
Sure. No, I get that too, and that's actually, that could almost be a podcast episode in and of itself, is when somebody does reach a level of success, how do you prevent them from not listening to yes men?
Yeah.
I don't know the answer to that one, but it's an interesting question.
I'm not that popular online to fully give a competent answer, but I'm sure there are at least a few people who probably could.
I don't know. To me, I guess I would maybe attribute the answer to that question to like what a true friendship is. Right?
Yeah.
Because a true friend to me is going to call you out on your bullshit when you don't want to hear it.
Exactly.
They do it from a place of love and a place of respect. I mean, like, there's a trust that's kind of built in for that. So like not just anybody can tell you that. I think there has to be like a long-term relationship there, or partnership, where you build that trust to be able to get to that place. And I think a lot of the top filmmakers that are out there, they have those people that they will keep on speed dial, for lack of a better word, that will tell them the truth.
I mean, you can look at George Lucas. I hate to throw him under the bus here, but like...
I mean, it's probably not the first time he's been thrown under that, so...
The first few Star Wars films, you know, are masterpieces. Nothing ever holds a candle up to them, but then you get these yes men when he wants to do all these ideas.
Yeah.
And they rely on that success of, you know, telling him no, is that you get things like Jar Jar Binks or all the other prequels.
I will say this, and I could talk at great length at it, and actually, weirdly enough, I've never actually done like dedicated episodes to Star Wars on my podcast. Like, you would think I would, but I haven't gotten there yet. But I will say this. When it comes to the prequels, flawed, absolutely, right? Now, I have a lot of respect for him, though, because I do think Lucas did a lot of very detailed world building and had a lot of imagination that, in my frank opinion, was missing from the sequel trilogy.
It definitely is like important. It's just the execution's a little sloppy, so it gets like... It's like a D-. You get like the bare basics, but that's about it. Everything else.
I think the one general consensus that you can get from people that watch the prequels is most people do agree that Revenge of the Sith is certainly the best of the three. I mean, like, there's definitely the moments in that where you're like, I wish there was more of this in the other two.
It's the closest to the I guess the first original movies. But
but I also don't know how you beat that. I mean, you have to factor in the time that those movies are made. It's a different world. different world to make movies. I don't think you could do that today.
And honestly, they look a bit more dated than the older ones, just because it has that CGI from the 2000s.
Have you seen the original cuts, like without the add-in stuff in there?
I have not.
I think the only way you can do it now is either you have to get the original VHS tapes, or you have to find. I think there is a DVD version of the originals, but there's not many of them out there because Lucas was quick to get them basically out of print so that he could just put in his Muppets one or whatever you want to call it, but. Look, man, I really appreciate talking with you here. I hope you're having fun.
Yeah.
Let's put in some extra plugs for you here. So remind everybody again, where can they find you? How can they find out more about what you're doing?
Yeah. So my main media channel is on Instagram. It's Andrew's Art 15, and there's an underscore between Andrew and Art. It'll have a link to my YouTube, which is a Corntastrophe. If you don't know how to spell it, just go to my Instagram. I do have an email too, if you were curious, hey, where can I find this? It's at awpaulson15@gmail.com.
Okay.
But yeah, if you have any questions how to find my old stuff, just email me there, and I'll be happy to give you the source files to my older stuff.
Sounds good, man. Are you open to collaborating with other people?
Oh yeah, obviously. I think collaboration is actually my favorite things to work on, more so than my own stuff.
Sure.
Just because it's more experimental, and you're putting yourself in a new position, and it just gets different ideas out of you.
Absolutely. Well, dude, it was a pleasure. Let me shake your hand.
Yeah.
Let's do that. There you go. You did a good job for your first podcast.
Yeah,
I'll tell you
thank
that.
you.
Thanks for being on, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you so much.